What is up everybody, Sinister here, and today it is finally time for us to talk about the Shadow Priest artifact. In a previous video we have had a look at how you get hold of this, but in this video we're going to look at what you need to do to keep it up to date as the expansion goes on. We're going to split this video into sections: artifact power, traits, relics, and second specs. All three sections are important and must be planned for if we want to have the optimal setups as raids launch. The first section we will talk about is the fuel your artifact needs, artifact power. There are multiple sources that it comes from, and it comes from everywhere. This you probably already know. Your main goal is going to be to get as much of this as quickly as you can. There's one way that speeds up the gain of artifact power more than any other, and that is artifact research. At 110, a quest becomes available in your order hall. Once completed, you gain access to the research missions. These missions cost 500 order hall resources each and can be stacked 2 at a time. The time these missions take to complete is not fully confirmed, but on beta at present, these missions take 5 days. This time will change as the expansion goes on, as Blizzard's catch-up mechanics come into effect on a person-to-person basis. When these missions are completed, they grant you a scroll. This scroll gains you 1 artifact knowledge level. These levels increase the overall gain of artifact power you receive from all sources. The first level gains you an extra 50%, where the 25th and final level gives you 24,900%. Considering your last traits cost over 1.5 million artifact power, you're gonna need them as quickly as you can. This scaling applies to all quests, treasures, and events that give artifact power. It is absolutely essential that you keep up with these missions, as it will hinder the schedule that we will talk about later. The main areas you should be focusing to get heavy artifact early are world quests, your order hall campaign, dungeons, and Suramar. There is a vast difference in opinion on if you should save certain quest areas until you have higher artifact knowledge. Blizzard posted this regarding the subject. It seems like an obvious flaw in our system, that if you want to wait until knowledge level 20, a month and a half longer, to complete that quest, it gives you 70k AP instead of 10k. Aren't you wasting 60k AP if you don't do that? The key here is that everything is relative. That Suramar quest capstone reward is equal to around 5 world quests. It will be equal to 5 world quests if you do it as soon as possible. It will be equal to 5 world quests if you do it 2 months later, and it will contribute roughly the same amount towards whatever trait you were working on at the time. Personally, I think it's better not to hold back on doing content to wait for research. Dungeons are infinitely repeatable, and if you keep track of world quests, you'll find large rewards frequently. Sure, the rewards will be higher from the saved quests, but you'll find yourself just doing more dungeons or waiting for world quests to be available. Save yourself some boredom and just get on with Suramar as soon as you can. Now let's talk about spending all that artifact power. I won't go through every option available, I will instead just talk about the route I will be taking and explain my reasoning. The first and most important of the Golden Dragons is Mass Hysteria. This is a flat 2% damage buff to Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch for every second we remain in Void form. When we are running Surrender to Madness, this is going to be a huge damage increase. High stacks will now reward even more damage. There is a short way to get to this dragon, however as you see we chose to take a longer route. This was chosen specifically to get both Unleash the Shadows and To the Pain. To the Pain is just a flat buff to Shadow Word Pain, and Unleash the Shadows allows shadowy apparitions to be spawned from Vampiric Touch. Both of these are strong traits that are better picked up early. The next dragon is Call to the Void. This gives Mindflayer a chance to spawn tentacles that hit the same target as you. Some of you may ask why you pick this second. You do it firstly because it's a single target choice which you will need for raiding, and also because to get to it you have to go through Touch of Darkness, which buffs the damage of Vampiric Touch by 15%. Both of these options lead toward better performance in Surrender to Madness situations, and the VT buff complements To the Pain and therefore Mass Hysteria. Before we move on to the final dragon, we will first grab Sinister Thoughts to buff the damage of Void Bolt, and then move on to Sphere of Insanity through Creeping Shadows. Creeping Shadows is just a flat shadow damage buff, and then there's Sphere of Insanity. This is a flat AoE buff that duplicates 5% of the damage from Void Bolt, Mind Blast and Mind Flay onto every target that has Shadow Word Pain active. We choose this last because there are fewer bosses that require mass AoE, and more that need flat single target damage. Next up, we have a choice that will require a bit of judgment depending on your current raid situation. You can either buff your execute damage by 10% with Death's Embrace, or give yourself some survivability with Mental Fortitude. Once you've acquired all of the standard 34 traits, you will unlock Darkening Whispers. This last trait has 20 levels, and with each one buffs your shadow damage up to a maximum of 14.5%. If you're keeping up with your research and getting as much AP as you can, you'll have all of your standard traits within 14 weeks of Legion launch, and every point in Darkening Whispers by the 27th week. Next up, let's talk about artifact relics. These items increase the item level and base stats of your weapon, as well as adding extra points to certain traits within the artifact tree. They come from a lot of sources, and as standard you have a space for 2 of them, 1 blood and 1 shadow. Your class order campaign grants you an extra shadow slot once completed, so it's imperative that you do this as soon as you can. It's pretty tedious and relies upon getting lots of order hall missions completed and gathering quests. When looking to choose your relics, think about flat damage increases, or insanity generation increases. Look at the scaling and make sure that you pick ones that give you the largest increase. I would recommend anything that buffs Mind Blast, your dots, or Unleash the Shadows. Finally, let's talk about offspecs. If you do want to roll with either Disc or Holy as an offspec, you're going to have to make some choices around how you spend your artifact power. In order for your offspec to be effective, you'll have to invest in its artifact. If you keep on top of your research, it will only take you an extra 2 weeks to get full traits in both your main and offspec weapons. In the description below, I will link you a timetable that shows roughly what you can expect in terms of artifact progression. So there we go guys, that's pretty much everything you need to know about the Shadow Priest artifact. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you've liked this video, why not like and subscribe? But until next time, I've been Sinestra, you've been awesome, and I'll catch you next time.